now. You're that early bunch that gets to see me as I walk around and get things ready, because just starting up the live stream by myself always has a little bit of technical difficulties, but everything should be good. I am going to my channel now. Bring up the live chat. Let's see. There we go. All right, let's see who's here. So welcome, guys, if you are here. Turn that off. One watching. All right. Andrea Gennaro, hello, hello. And Frog Lid, hi, how's it going? All right, guys, you are the first two here. I'm going to try to do something. Boop, 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 boop. Manage. Hear you and see you. Good, good. Brian Stagg. Good to see you, Bragg. Brian, how's it going? All right. So I'm going to be chatting a little bit today, guys. Blaze Cannon, good to see you. Got his 3D printer. That's awesome. I'm glad you did. That's great. I made a couple suggestions, and Blaze Cannon ended up getting a printer and apparently has been using it quite a bit. I don't have a ton of experience with 3D printers, but I did do a little bit of research and did kind of some, you know, looking back on what would be the best for kind of a starter, but not the very least, right? Not the cheapest thing you can get, but something that actually, you know, can do some good stuff, but also is budget friendly. Greetings from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Living the life. Chris Cato, how's it going? Living Real Fishing, how are you? Daphne Malone. Daphne Malone, you can get a shout out. How's it going, Daphne? How are you doing? San Antonio, we got Richard Gamez. Garan Magic, greetings from Croatia. Hello, hello. All right. So I want to do some frequently asked questions today. So I'm going to go through some of my videos that I've done and talk a little bit about, you know, some of those things that people ask a lot of questions about. And I respond to a lot of those questions. So a lot of people who put comments on, don't think about going through and looking at other people's comments to see if the answers are already there. And that's fine. I understand when I comment on YouTube videos, I usually don't look through either. But I thought it would just kind of be fun to go through some of these questions and talk to you guys a little bit about some of the things that I was thinking when I was doing these things in the videos. And if you guys have any questions, you can definitely drop them into the chat. And then, yeah, and then I would respond to them there. All right, so what's up, Land Raver from Wales? How's it going? Marcin Zapka from UK. How are you? Cheers. All right, so some of the things, so there was one person, E. Sierra Brewer on Instagram. I made the post saying that I would be doing my live stream today, answering some frequently asked questions and things, and he actually asked about my 1x30 grinder and how I modified the work rest to tip forward. So I'm going to talk about that, but I want to kind of give him some time to pop in. So if anybody sees him pop in, just let him know to comment a couple times or something, so that way I'll see when he's here, and then I'll talk about and I'll explain to you guys exactly how I did that modification on the work rest. John Claris, how's it going, brother? Hello from Germany. Alexander Liebsch. All right. So some of the things, so I just made a list of some of the normal questions that people ask per video. So if I talk about it and I don't mention, you know, one of the questions that you might have had specifically to a video, let me know in the comments and I will reply to that. And you guys can tell the art of craftsmanship, my brother is on his end. He's answering questions as well and popping in the chat. So if you guys have any specific questions, you can ask him in the chat. He will probably try to answer them for you there as well. Edward Schaefer, hey, from California. Our most recent video that we put out is the fire pit video. And That has done really, really well. So thank you guys so much. So one of the biggest questions we have for that is, or the biggest comments is, are you stupid? Why would you put your handle right on top? Why is it metal? You're going to burn your hand. And all those things make perfect sense, except for the fact that it's a fire pit and not a grill, right? And I wanted to make the lid on top because I just thought it'd be nice, right? I like to have a lid on top, so that way if the wind's blowing, I can put the lid on. If the fire's burning down and I'm gonna go inside or something, or even if I just wanna go inside into my house and I don't wanna leave the fire unattended, I can put the lid on. Now, obviously, every fire pit that I've ever had has a handle directly on top of the lid. It's just how it is. That's where the handle goes. Usually it's a little metal ring, you know, attached to like a bolt into the lid, and it's designed to grab it with some type of tool. Most fire pits even come with like a metal hook tool that you can lift that up and take it off, because that's the idea, right? Is that you're taking off and you're putting on that lid or that screen or whatever it is. And that's basically what I was making. So for the fire pit, the top is a screen. It's just basically there to protect it, you know, maybe 10% of the time when I'm using it. And that's if it's burning down or if it's really windy or something like that, right? Otherwise, the fire pit is used without the lid on 90% of the time. So yeah, so if you guys had any questions about that specifically, that was the reason why the handle's there. It's metal. I thought about, my brother and I, we discussed like, what if we do like, you know, just use that ring, because I had an old fire pit I could have taken that ring off of. Or what if we do something else? Like, there were a few different options, and I was like, well, it'd be nice to have a whole handle, so that way I can move it around and I can put it on easily. You know, if it's a giant blazing fire, I'm not putting my hand on that handle and putting it over the fire. I'm using a poker stick, or, you know, I'm just waiting. Like, it doesn't, the lid doesn't need to be on all the time. The lid is there to be on partial time, and I figured, why not make a full handle? I can put a poker stick in there, or I can use a hook. I've had those hook tools from other fire pits. All right, let's see who's in the comments. Tony Lopez, how you doing? Good to hear from you from Sydney, Australia. Alexander's back. It's okay, the coronavirus is under control, but schools and universities are still closed. More and more things are allowed. Alan Brown, hey Dustin from Georgia. Love the fire pit. Glad to hear it's holding up. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you, Alan Brown. All right, so on that same topic about the fire pit, a lot of people asked about, like, why would I use aluminum rivets? Why not stainless steel, or just weld it together completely? And the reason I used aluminum rivets is because I have aluminum rivets. That's what I have on hand. And again, you know, the lid was designed, I wanted to put all those things on to be able to put the lid on when the fire is basically burning down, you know, closer to the end. And if for some reason, you know, if I'm putting it on, it's windy and it's blowing all over the place, and the fire is not, it's going to be like burning really fast, because it would be really windy, but not super hot so much. So really the lid's designed not to be on very often. It's just designed as like a screen cover when I need it. So that's why I use the aluminum rivets, and the majority of those aluminum rivets are actually in the lid holding on that screen. There are, I don't know, 8 or 10 or 12 or something like that, that are in the bottom, maybe not even that many, maybe like 8. When I put the 16 gauge plate into the bottom of the fire pit to give it a flat surface, underneath that are my brackets that I put in, and those are held on by aluminum rivets. Now the rivets are through the plate, through the bracket steel, and then into through the actual fire pit, the barrel, into those brackets. And so those are down, you know, maybe an inch or so below that 16 gauge steel. So they're really not getting the brunt of that heat. They're underneath of it, so they're okay. And again, in the event that some of the things that I use end up failing, then I'll fix them when I fix them. But, you know, for something that I wanted to do, to have fun, to show you guys what you could do with an old barrel, I've been thinking about that for a few years, and it's turned out great, and I loved it. Like I said, I've used it probably at least every other day since I put it out there, which has been about a month now, and it's holding up really well. All right, one Darren G says, most of the things you make, do you have the idea already in the back of your mind, or do you just go with the flow when you see items that show potential? I do some of both. So I keep a list of all ideas of things that I want to make. I have in my sketchbook, I have a list of just, when I think of ideas, I put them into there, so that way I have a running list of things to do for the channel. But a lot of stuff is, as it, like the fire pit. I had my fire pit that I was using started to rust out in the bottom, so I was like, oh, I want to make another fire pit. And I thought, it'd been years since I thought of using this, barrel, and so I was like, well, I reached out to my dad, and he had an extra fire barrel, or had an extra oil drum that a friend of his had given, and so I brought it here. I cleaned it all out really well. That was a lot of questions people asking about, like the barrel blowing up. I didn't really talk about it in the video. Maybe I should talked about it a little bit more, and I did add it into the description, but I cleaned out the barrel multiple times with soap and water, and everything I could got out of it. And then when I actually cut it in half on video, I had the actual bung open. So if for some reason there was a spark or that had created, it wasn't like I was capturing all the gases from old oil. This was also a heavy oil for machine oil. It wasn't like a, gasoline or something that was going to blow really easily. Now, obviously all this stuff is flammable, but I took some precautions. There was definitely a part of me that was a little bit nervous though when I cut through that first time. But leaving the hole open so there was airflow, so there was a way for the gases to escape. If for some reason there was a spark, it wasn't like it was capturing all those gases inside and it was going to explode. It would have had an escape route. So I did do that. Let's see, paint and finish options. I decided to paint it because I just thought it would look nice, and I wasn't 100% sure that the paint on the outside of the barrel would be would not be toxic if I burnt it. So I decided to grind it off and then put on grill paint, which I knew could withstand up to 2,000 degrees or whatever it is for grills. So that paint I use specifically is specifically for grills. It's a high temp paint, both the gray and the black. So that's why I decided to go with the paint. I also, like I said, I wanted to do some design on it, which was fun for me. And so I went with the grill paint. All right, Gustav, just saying hi. You're the one who opened my eyes for making knives. Awesome. Really great hobby. Been sketching knives and notebooks all my life. That's great, Gustav. I appreciate it. When I first got into knife making, it was, through watching other YouTubers and finding, the joy in doing something like that for myself. And I'm the same way. I'd always been interested in making my own stuff and had thought about knives a lot growing up, and always made swords and knives and things from wood, and never actually made a knife until college. When I was in college, I decided to start making knives. But yep. Yeah, so I appreciate you checking in that way. A lot of people also asked, or made some suggestions about a grill, the fire pit being a grill, and the handle on the side and the hinge. So the idea was it's not a grill, it's a fire pit. But I do like to cook over the fire, and I do have a little metal grill grate that I've had from other fire pits that I've used for other, for other fire pits. And so I still have that, and I knew that would fit pretty well. It actually fits down maybe about 4 inches or so. It'll sit in, and it'll sit on the curve of the fire barrel, and it sits about 3 or 4 inches below the actual rim of the fire barrel. So it sits nice, and there's probably, a good maybe foot or so above it. Below it, maybe a foot or 14, 16 inches like that once I put it below it. So I can actually slide fire under there or slide coals. And then the grill is wide enough, it's 32 inches or so wide, that I can have like a pretty decent fire going on one side and then just slide coals under the other side to cook under. And I've done bacon and eggs and all sorts of different stuff. So it's been fun. All right, let's see. Tony Lopez says, would you be kind enough to make a really big, aggressive-looking Damascus steel hunting knife with all the pattern in the steel and trimmings? When I feel more comfortable with forging knives, I'll definitely get into Damascus. But for now, I'm not a huge knife forging guy right now. I would love to get into more of that, but that also takes a lot of time. And I got to work outside mostly with my forge. I do some heat treating in here, but if I'm actually doing like blacksmithing and forging, I'll take my forge outside and work, so I'm not down here creating so much heat. But yeah, eventually I'll do one. I'd love to do a Damascus knife and do like a big blade. We'll see. Hopefully, I'll probably do a few off camera before I do them on camera. All right, so moving on, our other biggest video that we've had was the bushcraft hatchet modification. And there have been a few questions about that in the last few years. A lot of people will come back with the same type of questions. So one is, why would I cut off the hammer pole or cut off the hammer? Let me pull that hatchet out so I can just show you guys. So I still have this one because I love this hatchet, and I've used it on multiple multiple trips camping and around here, and it works great, and it's held a really good edge. So when you have a hatchet like this, you know, what you have is a hammer and a hatchet in one. And let me grab one that is unfinished, if I can show you guys that. I can grab one for my axe heads. I'll actually be doing another one shortly for a buddy of ours who, he and my brother do the music for our channel. He's gonna make us some more. So this is a normal kind of half hatchet. This is, I don't see a name on this one. This is actually, I really like the shape of this one. So this is the half hatchet. This is, you know, a hatchet and a hammer. Usually the edge is pretty straight. This one has a little bit of curve to it, which is nice. And then it has a nail puller. This is what they call a half hatchet. And you can find another version that's like a full half circle, and sometimes it'll have lugs on the top. That's why they call this the half hatchet, because it's like half of it. Or a rigger's axe or a carpenter's hatchet. It goes by a bunch of different names. I always call them half hatchets. So people asked, why did I cut off so much of the hammer? It's because I didn't need a ton of hammer, right? There was too much weight in the back. I wanted to get rid of some of that to make it faster. And also I just didn't like it aesthetically. You know, this is a hatchet for myself, something that I wanted. I do like having a little bit of the hammer, and that's why I left about, 3/8 of an inch or so, because it's nice to have a flat surface on the back. You know, it doesn't need to be super hard if I'm hammering in like, aluminum tent stakes or wooden tent stakes, or hitting on something just to like, maybe banging some wood or moving something around or grabbing something to turn it. I don't need a super hardened hammer. I'm not hammering in nails. I'm not doing a ton of work with this, with this end. It's just there to be a hammer surface to hit on bushcraft type things or camping type things. So a lot of people ask, like, why cut it off? And that was why. Also, why would I cut off the, why cut off the nail puller? Well, because I didn't need it either. It was like, that job is very specific for one thing, grabbing a nail and lifting it up. And I don't need that to happen. I don't need to be pulling nails when I'm doing camping, bushcrafting or camping or hiking or backpacking, any of that stuff. So that was one of the things, that one of the reasons why I took that off was because also I like the look of it. Like, I like this bearded axe. I like the shape of this, When I modded this, the idea was to do a shape that I liked, that I thought looked sexy, right? That I wanted to use all the time. So I also trimmed the actual edge and brought it back some. So it actually swooped a little bit back from the toe to the heel. And the reason why I did that as well was that I wanted a little bit of a round cutting surface. I wanted it more round than flat. That gives it a little bit more versatility when you're chopping. You don't need to hit it straight on. You can kind of come in, if you're hitting it here, or if you're up a little bit, you're underneath, it gives you a little bit more versatility of where it'll chop. So that was another reason why I cut that in. And a lot of people thought, like, why do that at all? And if I did, wouldn't I be ruining the temper of the edge? And the answer to that is that I was being really careful. So every single cut that I made, I had a wet rag with water on it, or I had my bucket right there. Every single time I was like constantly cooling it, literally after every like 1/4 of an inch of a cut, because of that reason specifically. Obviously, I know about heat treating. I know that's what I do. It's like with knives, it's very particular about heat treating. And so that's another reason, one of the reasons why I don't sell a ton of knives, is because I don't have a heat treating oven. I can't do something super particular, super right. Now I can make a knife and it'll work really well, and I'm going to be making a run of knives with 80 CRV, 80 CRV2, but you know, and I can quench from the forge, so I'll heat up my blade and I'll quench, and I'll check everything, make sure it's really hardened really well before doing any of my tempering. But you know, so I know about that. You know, I know about heating up steel. I know, you know, that's why I keep everything really close and tight and make sure my temperatures don't get too high. So as I was cutting this, I was being super careful about making sure that I did not overheat that blade at all while cutting. Hello from Baton Rouge, Lightning 48. How often do you re-oil the handles of your hatchets? Do you find max or minimum to look after them? I re-oil my handles pretty often. I mean, the ones that I do more often are the ones that I just handled, and as they get older, they don't need as much. You know, the kind of rule of thumb, the saying is once a day for a week, once a week for a month, once a month for a year, and then once every year. And that's how often you would do it. So after you first make your handle, you handle it once a day for a week. At the end of that week, you're going to handle it once a week for the entire month. At the end of that month, you're going to do it once a month for the entire year. And then at the end of the year, you know, you got so much oil on the handle that you're going to oil them once a year. That being said, I mean, the faces, the handles, like the actual sides, the main handle, the side grain doesn't need as much oil. You know, it's gonna get in there, it's gonna stay in there. It's really the end grain, so the top of the head, the bottom of the handle, that's where it's gonna really soak in and dry out. So you wanna make sure you're oiling the top of the eye often. So I would say, I mean, when I use my axes and hatchets and things, after every use I come in and I have a tin here with a rag inside that's soaked in WD-40. So I use that and I'll just clean the hatchet, right? So I'm taking care of it every single time I use it. Before I put it away, I come in and I clean it. And that does two things. Obviously, it cleans off the dirt, but it also puts a little coat of WD-40 on there just to keep them from rusting here in my basement. And then I would say every few times I use the axes, I'll come down and I oil them. And it always ends up becoming like a vicious cycle. I will oil one, and so I always use gloves because I'm, you know, frugal and I don't want to waste the oil. So I'll put on gloves, I'll oil it up, and then, you know, I'll have a bunch of oil left on my hands. So then I'll hang the axe up and I'll grab another axe. It looks like it might need it, you know, I'll oil that one. But then I won't have like enough oil in my hands to oil the second handle. So I'll put a little bit more oil on, do that, and then, you know, like I said, it's just a vicious cycle. And then I have too much on my hands, go to the next one, and I kind of work my way down until I've kind of gotten to that, you know, balance point where I don't have any more oil on my hands and I'm happy with it. But, you know, I'm happy to do that to the axes. You know, like I said, here in my basement, it's kind of damp. So, you know, I want to make sure that I'm, you know, taking care of those tools accordingly. Using boiled linseed oil, yes, I use boiled linseed oil on the handles. And I also have a mix. I have a jar of boiled linseed oil here for handles, and then I have a mix. This is a beeswax and boiled linseed oil mix 1-to-1. And I use that for some of my handles too. Just depending on what I'm using them for. Some handles get the wax and boiled linseed oil, and some get just boiled linseed oil. I think it could pretty much go either way. But just depends on how I feel for the day. Like I was just working on finishing up a small knife, and I've had this one in my shop for a little while. I need to make a sheath for it. This is for my nephew, a little Puko style file knife with a Wenge and we got Wenge and Bakodi handle with brass bolster and tail cap, end cap, and brass liners and leather spacers, brass spacers and leather spacers. And that I actually just used some of the boiled linseed oil on the wax just to give it a little bit more of that surface, and also in that leather. Leather's good, likes to have a little bit of wax in it. Yeah, boiled linseed oil, you can get it at most hardware stores. I've gotten mine from a few different places, but you know, it's like when I run out. I've also gotten them from yard sales. Sometimes people will have like a half jar at a yard sale and I'll grab it because why not? As far as I know, I use it fast enough that it's not going to go bad. And if I pour it in, if I smell it or it looks funky or smells funky, then I won't use it. But Lightning 48. I have a niece on the way, and I have a brand new nephew that was just born about a month ago. So congratulations to Drew for his little boy, my brother Drew. All right. So let's see, where are we? Hardened edge, yep, modding and all. So why mod it at all? Like, people are like, why not, why not just leave it? You've ruined that tool. Well, like I've said before, these type of hatchet heads are a dime a dozen here on the East Coast. I can find them at, yard sales all the time, flea markets. They're cheap. I can buy a brand new one, which probably would be like better for heat, better heat treatment, more sophisticated, maybe a harder edge than any of these old ones. Who knows? I could buy it for like $12 at the hardware store, brand new one. So when I get some of these old ones, I like to modify them because I like the way they look. That being said, I also, hey, Vancouver Island, nice, good to see you. How do you store your axes? I have them stored on an axe rack here in my basement. And actually, I'll show you guys real quick. And Devin's not going to like this because I'm going to turn the camera, but I'll come bring it back. All right, let's see. There's the shop, nice and messy. Actually, it's not too messy. It's just the back of a lot of tools back there. All right, so here you can see I have a rack here. This whole rack is tilted back just a little bit, so everything's leaning back, but all these there's individual spacers. This is made out of 2x4 and just screwed into the joist here in the ceiling. So they're all up here and they just sit up on the edge. I have, obviously I'm a little bit careful, but all the axes just sit over the edge of these. Up in here I have, shorter handle ones on the bottom and longer handles on top. I have double bits up top. I was going to show you, this is one that I really like, that I found at a yard sale. And this, I'm going to bring you guys back over. Let's see. I'll show you nice and close up while you're here. You can see it in the dark. Okay. Yeah, you guys can't see very well. All right, let's see. I'll move you down. All right. So, there we go. There's a little bit. You can see it. So, this is a really cool half hatchet that I found at a yard sale for a couple bucks, and it has a phantom bevel. So phantom bevels are these bevels that are kind of cut in, ground into an axe head. And this is a really cool one. It has this line that comes up in between and no maker's mark on it. So I don't know what this is from, but I love the look of this. And so, something like this, I definitely didn't want to do any modifications to because this is pretty special. But otherwise, a lot of these things, a lot of these axes are not as, they're, like I said, they're a dime a dozen. I find tons of them, so I like to mod some of them. And I've given away several as gifts. All right. All right. Another video that I have a lot of questions on is the trench knife video, the M3 trench knife. A lot of people, ask that, like, why not hot rivet the tang? So if you watch that video, replace the handle with a stacked leather handle, which is what it would have been originally. And I used the actual bolster, the original bolster that was on the crossguard bolster, did the stacked handle, did the research on what it should look like, and shaped it exactly how it should look, and then put a new pommel on. It didn't have the pommel, so I made a pommel. So I glued everything together, and I did not rivet or tap and screw the pommel on. And the reason I did this was because it was not going to be used as a tool. It was an heirloom. So this belonged to the parent of a friend of my father's that he brought back from World War II, along with a few other things that they lost in a fire. And so they had the steel left over, but the handle had burnt off. So I was, bringing this heirloom back up to presentation quality. I considered reheat treating it, but then I would have had to, redo the patina and everything, and I wasn't confident enough in doing that. That's, it's not what I do. I'm not a professional restorer. I'm a hobbyist, and I like to do that stuff, and he asked me to do it, or my father asked me to do it for his friend, and I was happy to. And he was happy to receive it. He loved it. And like I said, this is something that is a family heirloom that's not going to be used. It's going to be displayed as something, as a relic from history. So that's the reason why I did it that way. That being said, I didn't do the reheat treat. That was another big question. Everyone was like, well, you didn't heat treat it. It can't be used as a knife now. It probably lost its temper in the fire. And that's right, it probably did. But I wasn't going to reheat treat it. My thought was that all the patina was there from, it just sitting. It's been a few years since the fire, but I also thought, if it had been in the fire, there'd be like more soot on it if it had really gotten that hot. So I think that it may not have gotten as hot as, we think it did. So I don't know. Either way, my goal was to redo it, to restore it in a way that it could be presented back to him. And I got the sheath to match, gave it back to him, and, he was happy to receive it that way and was going to keep it as an heirloom for his family. Dutch Forge, hi from the UK. Enjoy your videos. Thank you so much. Good to see you, Dutch Forge. All right. Another... do you guys reach out and offer anything? Another question on the trench knife was why use glue? Because that was I did some research on it, and I've done some other stacked leather handles, and that's just the way I thought would be the best way to do it, to hold it all together. You don't have to use glue on leather. You can just stack it, oil it, and, clamp it all together and let it sit, but I thought it'd be better with glue. It would hold better and it would look better. So that's why I use glue. One Durham G says, I've seen from your Instagram some of the others you follow. Joe Robinette would be a good example. Do you ever reach out and offer to make for any of the guys you follow? When I made the knife, the bushcraft knife, the woodlore clone, I thought I had an idea to actually maybe do some knives that other famous YouTubers use just to make them to have fun. I know Joe Robinette uses a bunch of different knives, but one of the ones he really likes is from Turley, a knife maker named Turley, and it's called his Gasconade knife. And I thought about making that knife too, and I looked it up and actually really didn't like the design of the knife, so I decided not to. But yeah, I love Joe Robinette. I love that, I love his bushcraft stuff. I love his style of video. I love the way he talks and acts. And that he's a good father. I feel like we're very, very similar in that respect. We both are about the same age. He's in his mid-30s. Might be a year younger or so than me, but we grew up in the same time frame, so the same shows, the same music, kind of the same background. So it's fun to watch him because I feel like it's somebody that I could have been friends with, or somebody I went to college with. He just seems like a really good, really good guy. So I like Joe, but no, reaching out to make stuff for other people, I haven't really done that. I've talked to a few different YouTubers. And we've done, collaborations and things and work together and, just build the community up, but not really. Flea 1951 says, would you make one of the bushcraft knives for sale? And Crafting Life is here. Sean, how's it going, man? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. So the bushcraft knives, I'm actually making a bushcraft Puko style full tang knife. That's going to be our next video that we do. That'll come out, sometime in the next couple weeks. But that knife, I've been doing some prototypes with wood just to get the feeling of it and see the size. But the reason why I wanted to do that is because I have a bunch of different. I wanted something that's a little bit smaller, a little bit more compact. So when you're actually wearing on your hip, it's a little bit smaller in the sheath and everything. And I guess I kind of got inspired by the knife that I made for my daughter. That little knife, I really like that. And that was inspired by Gallardo Knives on Instagram. If you guys want to check him out, he's really cool. Gallardo. Liardo, I think, Gallardo. And he has a really cool knife that inspired that little knife. And so once I had that and it's a small sheath, it was kind of a nicer EDC knife, so an everyday carry. Now I love my dangler for backpacking because it's like, it sits down low, I can sit down, I can move around, it doesn't get in the way, it doesn't sit on my belt. But for like an EDC, when I want to go, you know, out around, sometimes I'd like to carry a little bit bigger knife. You know, my buddy Sean and I, Crafting Life If I Want, he and I shoot archery range nearby, and you know, sometimes I want to carry a knife when I'm going to that. It's in the woods and stuff, but I don't necessarily want to carry a full-size bushcraft knife. So because of that, I wanted a little bit smaller knife. So I'm making a new knife. Like I said, I made some wooden prototypes. I'm going to make one in the next video or so, and that's going to be made out of 80 CRV2. It's going to be held together with Corby bolts. I'm going to use some really beautiful black dyed and stabilized maple for the scales, and my buddy and, you know, getting to be better friends, the guy who I've, you know, become really good friends with through YouTube. That's Brian House, and his channel is Housework. Definitely go check him out, guys. And he has an awesome podcast now out called Work For It, and that's on the Makery Network. So if you guys are interested, definitely check him out. And just a little bit of behind the scenes, we're thinking about doing a podcast, and we're in talks right now with Craig Lockwood from the Knife Talk podcast. He's the one who came up with the Makery Network, which is basically a podcast network for makers and craftspeople and artists. And so we're in talks with him about setting up, doing a podcast for the art of craftsmanship, and talking about our projects, and talking about, you know, what we do in the shop, and, you know, kind of walking through some of the how-tos and things like that, and going back through videos and things. So, you know, it should be a really fun adventure. My brother and I are really excited to start that up. So it might be something that we do in the near future. So I'm going to be using the black maple scales. I'm thinking about doing a kind of a narrow handle, maybe not super narrow, but just a little bit not as chunky. So maybe like a white liner with the black scales. You know, maybe, I don't know, maybe an inch wide or 3/4 of an inch. So a little narrower. So I'm going to try to play around with that and make one, and then I'll live with it for a little bit. And so far I'm really happy with the design. And if once I make it, I'm still really happy with the design, I use it a little bit, then I'm going to be making that for sale in the next, you know, couple months. I'll be making a whole run of those, and I'll post stuff up on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and whatnot, let you guys know. So Flea 1951, he asked me if you're going to make one for sale. So that's the plan for that one. All right. So let's see. Circular saw, trench knife. All right. So the next video I want to talk about real quick is the circular saw. Hello. Hello. My daughter's here. Just come to stop by. Hi, everybody. Hi. Hi, sweetie pie. Let's see. So let's see, where are we? Let's move this to the end. Catch up. I'll show you. So Steve Cole, first up, your video of making the throwing axe pretty much inspired me to start restoring modding axes. Awesome. I have 3. Nice. I'm working on now. Do you do any etching, carving patterns in any of your axes? Like Titanium Man says, well, that wasn't very sneaky. As you guys all know, my daughter makes her way into all of our videos, and sometimes it's really sneaky. Some people have seen them, some people haven't. If you haven't seen them, definitely go back and check it out. If you look at the comments, you'll see people will timestamp her all the time. So carving patterns in axes, other than I stamped my initials and a date in a no-name double bit axe, a cruiser axe that I have. Other than that, I haven't really. I am going to be etching the Art of Craftsmanship logo in on the knife, the craft knife that I'm making for the next video. So I'll show you guys how I do that. But otherwise, I haven't done a ton. Thought about doing some etching and, you know, doing some different, like either electro or acid etching, or doing some actually engraving using, like, you know, actual tool to cut into it, but haven't yet. All right. So one of the questions for the circular saw knife was why not heat treat the knife? And the reason why, you know, you guys didn't miss it. I didn't not heat treat the knife. I actually just, I didn't heat treat it. That was the whole point of that knife, is that you can make a knife out of an old circular saw blade that you don't need to heat treat because the blades are already heat treated. So you could actually make a perfectly usable knife, you know, cutting it out. Again, you just need to be really careful when you're cutting it out that you're not overheating the blade too much. Keep it cool. There are lots of knife makers that do grinding, you know, all of their bevel grinding on knives after heat treat. So you're not going to ruin a knife by doing that if you keep the temperature down. So you just keep a bucket of water nearby or keep a rag nearby and cool it off. So that was the point for that knife, is that I wasn't doing it. The whole point was that you don't have to do a heat treat cycle. You can take a blade, you can put a handle on it, cut it out, and you got a knife. Now, is that knife going to hold an edge the same way as a really nicely heat-treated blade? Of course not, right? It's not designed to be super hard to hold an edge like an actual knife going through a full heat treatment cycle, you know, with the quench and the tempering and everything. But it doesn't need to. So, you know, if you're going to make a knife and you want to get into it and you want to make something that you can use and camp with it and backpack and whittle, you can do all that. And the nice thing about a circular saw blade is that because it's not super hard, you can sharpen it really easily. So you could sharpen it on a river stone if you're out in the woods, or you can sharpen on a stone, or you can sharpen on a belt, you know, a grinder or anything like that. So yes, if, you know, for that one specifically, I did not do any heat treating. Let's see. Joiner's mallet. The joiner's mallet video, which we put out not too long ago, that mallet, the wooden mallet, I did find out that was willow. And I don't know if willow is good or bad or not. I mean, I'm assuming it's not as, you know, it's not a hard wood, but it's not super soft either. As far as I can tell, it seemed like a fairly good wood, and it's a good mallet wood. You know, we want your mallets. If you want like a wooden mallet, the idea is that it's not going to damage what you're hitting it with. So if it's kind of soft and it gets, you know, the face of it gets beat up when I'm hitting it, that's fine. Yeah, that's what it's designed for. The brick forge, which you guys can see in the background right on the corner of your screen. There's some people who've asked about that when I made it. Not do any forge cement or furnace cement in between those layers, and it's definitely not as efficient as it should be. So I'm going to be pulling that apart soon, and actually I have some forge cement, so I'm going to be going back in and I'll be adding in that forge cement between all the layers so it's nice and insulated to try to keep as much heat inside. And I may adjust the two burners on top and put them just a little bit closer together to like a better, you know, centralized area of heat. So I'll be talking about that. So that might happen in the next, I might show you guys. I might do an Instagram live stream as well if I'm doing that. But yeah. All right, one of the questions that is asked a lot. Oh, so when I made that forge, you know, we made it. It always takes a week or two to film videos, however, you know, depending on how often we can get together. And then, you know, another couple of days for all the editing, 4 or 5 days or so. So by the time we've started a project and finished it and it's ready to upload, sometimes it can be upwards of like 2 or 3 weeks. So there's this like feeling in the world of YouTube that if you put something out and like a day later someone, or a day or 2 or 3 days later someone else puts out a really similar video, then there's this idea that you're like copying off of each other. But all of us are making content and editing. I mean, obviously there are some people who are making it and putting it out every day, and they're doing vlog style, but like a full edited video is going to take some time to make and do. So we've got all this like time put into it, and then you know, we end up putting something out, and then so Essential Craftsman put out a brick forge video, and his came out maybe 2 days or a day and a half before ours came out. We're like, oh, you copied Essential Craftsman, like you can come up with your own ideas. Obviously, none of us, it had been weeks in the works for this video. So recently we did the mallet video, and when the day before I did the mallet video, Jimmy DiResta put out a big mallet video. I was like, of course, right? The day before I put something out, or 2 days before he puts a mallet video out, we're gonna get the same thing. But then like a week later, Samurai Carpenter put out a mallet video. So I was like, okay, well, there's Jimmy DiResta, who's got like 2.5 or whatever million subscribers, and Samurai Carpenter's got 1.5 million subscribers, and we've got like 75,000 subscribers. So in the grand scheme of things, they're like, they're the big boys in YouTube, and I'm just this, just kind of starting out, just getting there. But it was nice to see that we have, Jimmy DiResta putting something out, I put something out, and then after me, the Samurai Carpenter put something out. So I beat him to the punch. All right. So Alex Costa, hello. Have you made a knife out of stainless steel? So you use 303 stainless. I have not done any stainless steel. Stainless steel takes much more controlled heat treatment, and I do not have a heat treating oven. Not yet. Something we are looking into getting shortly. But yeah, it's, we are not, I don't have the forge or the oven to get to the temperatures that you need to do to get to heat treating stainless steel. So because I don't have that, I haven't done stainless steel. Is that it? All right, let's see. So I think I talked about everything. The one last thing was for the bone handle knife that I made for Corinne for Christmas. Some people asked about, warned me about being careful for toxic fumes when you're grinding on bone, and I appreciate that. For most of the time that I was doing it, I was wearing my respirator. There were a few times that I wasn't, and I probably should have been wearing it more often just to make sure that I would, keep all that stuff out of my lungs. But that's true. There's definitely all sorts of toxicities inside of bone, so you got to be careful with that. And something that happened that you guys don't see in the video, and I haven't talked about, is that shortly before, don't lean on that, that's greasy. Shortly before we were finished the video, so we're like finishing the handle, everything's been shaped, we're like just sanding it, I dropped the knife on the ground, on the concrete floor down here, and a little piece cracked off. Fortunately, two or three little pieces. So I picked up all the pieces, and we hadn't caught the actual drop on camera. So instead of like talking about it and gluing everything together, I just glued it all together, and it's held up really well and it's been perfectly fine. But I glued it all together with epoxy, put it back together, smoothed it all out, and you don't see that in the video. But I did drop it and it did crack. Fortunately, the bone already had some cracks in it, and it was all held together by epoxy anyway. So not a big deal, and it kind of adds to the kind of just the feeling of this like bone handle. So, but
I remember when I was in that.
So I'm gonna keep on. Yes, a lot of wood. Yes, there's a lot of stuff that's toxic, especially exotic woods that are oily. There's a lot of toxicities in those woods. You got to be careful with it. So I'm going to keep on checking out your comments, and I'll keep responding to them. But I also want to show you guys this really cool vintage Craftsman drill press that I got from a buddy of our family's. And so it does work. Everything works fine. The motor runs well. But there's a few things on it that are not working very well. And so I'm going to start taking it apart because I want to do a restoration on this. And I'll just kind of take it apart with you guys here and show you kind of what I do. So with this, it obviously has a single handle, but you can see like this is on a spring. There is a spring inside. And so this should spring back up on its own. A drill press, you pull down. If you let go, it springs back up. So it's not springing back up. So I know at least I got to take that apart and clean out all the gear mechanism and the spring inside here so it can actually drop down and then spring back up on its own. But I really like it. It has a good amount of play. We got like...
It's dusty.
Mm-hmm.
This
It might be
dress.
maybe like a 3-inch, 3-inch throat. Would you build a woodler clone? I was going to see by the date. I'd like to have one before I die. I don't really do custom orders like that because I don't really have the time, unfortunately, with having a family and doing the videos and having a full-time job. My free time is used for making some of the other stuff that I like to make in the shop and do other projects. So the reason why I don't do custom orders like that and custom like things where people were asking specifically, just because there are hundreds of people that ask me to make things like that for them, and I just can't make all that stuff for everybody. And my free time is the time that I spend with my family outside of the work and the shop, and I try to balance that. So I don't really use my additional time to make stuff, commission pieces for people. At least not yet. If I could do that full time and quit my other job, which I don't really want to do right now because I'm a teacher and I enjoy teaching, but in the future, maybe at some point I'll be able to move into full-time knife making, and then I'll do custom orders and I'll do all sorts of fun stuff like that. But for now, no, I'm not doing custom orders. But you can get woodlore knives online. You can buy them. They're not going to be super cheap, but you can also get them. There's a lot of knife makers in the world who are doing really awesome work. All right. Daniel Carver says, new to the channel, just watched your Osage Self-Bow video. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I really enjoy doing that. We want to do a hickory bow as well in the near future, so look out for that. You go to bed. Alexander, thanks so much for stopping in. I appreciate it. All right. Contact with you. I have done. DG, you can send me an email. You can send me an email to theartofcraftsmanship@gmail.com, or you can contact me through Instagram, which is also at the Art of Craftsmanship. So, all right, yeah, greetings from Bavaria. Hugs from Brazil. Thank you so much. Vladimir Fernandez, I appreciate it. Here, I'm gonna sit down here.
Sure.
All right, so maybe you can look at some questions. So I'm gonna start taking this apart, guys, and we will comment back and forth a little bit. So first thing I need to do is I need to take out the entire shaft. Now this is just sliding shaft up and down, and that's separate. So that's an internal bore inside there. So I need to figure out how I'm going to take this apart and start cleaning it. So what I might do first is take the belt off. So this is belt driven and it has a few different gear ratios. So this has a 1, 2, 3, 4, a 4-geared belt here, and then on the inside it's 4 as well. So you can adjust it through 4 different speeds. Got that. So that, and that's tight there. So this is tightened and loosened by 2 screws on either side, 2 bolts. So I'm just loosening those 2 bolts. And then that should loosen up this. I can push it in. Now I can get the belt up and off. Your channel. What is your John the boy, Johnny G. Hey from North Carolina, hello. New to your channel, viewed a few of your videos. Quick question, what's your biggest achievement in craftsmanship, the thing you're most proud of? I crafted my daughter, and she is amazing. So that's the one thing I'm most proud of. But for things I've made, I don't know, I'm proud of a lot of the stuff I make. I make a bunch of different stuff, and it all has different uses, and I don't know. It's because I make so many different things. Like I really like, you know, some of the knives I've made because they look really nice, but also, you know, the Woodlore clone works great. It has a really nice sheath and a fire steel attached to it, and I've used it a ton of times in backpacking, and it's great. I love it for that reason. But that being said, you know, it may not be my favorite thing I've ever made on the channel because it has a very specific use. Actually, I might leave that up there. But, you know, I do really like that. And I mean, the fire pit turned out really good. I was really happy with that. You know, the axe restorations, the Connecticut pattern, Collins Legitimus that I made, that is beautiful. That turned out really nice. But yeah, I don't know. I like a lot of the stuff. Most of the stuff I make is fun, and you know, I feel like everything that I make is that much better in the level of craftsmanship because I'm always learning and always getting better. So each time I make something, you know, every knife I make, the most recent one is the best one that I've made because I've learned so much and I've tried so much, and every single time I should be getting better as a craftsman. Let's see. Wife did the crafting on that one. Yeah, well, it's a combination. It's going to include
Sadie,
all
what are
the
you
questions.
doing? What are you doing?
Love the axe restorations. Yeah, I really like the axe restorations as well. I'm an avid axe junkie. I love axes, so I'm always wanting to do more restorations. And there are a lot of people who ask for the restorations pretty often. So we're happy to do them sometimes, but you know, we want to make sure we're also keeping the channel a little bit more versatile. A lot of different stuff. All right, so that's there. That inside. All right, what do we got? I have a collar with, well, let's see. So the more I'm looking at this, I'm thinking maybe I'll do less completely removing things and maybe just kind of get in here and clean some stuff up and oil stuff, which I think might be enough because there's just like a bunch of goo and grime and things inside of this drill press. And so it has, again, it has, let me spin it around here. So there is the shaft that is gear. It has a gear inside and it has notches on it. So the gear inside is running up and down. And it's inside of the shaft, but I just can't tell if the reason why it's not coming back up is it just too gunked up. I mean, there's a bunch of gunk and stuff, but it doesn't seem super dirty inside. So maybe it just takes a little bit of oil. Let's spray a little bit of oil in there anyway, just to clean it up. A little bit of WD-40. Move this out a little bit. Do you use your Portaband saw for metal? Would work for wood as well. The Portaband would work for wood. It'll work for either one. The reason why I use it for metal is because it's slow speed. I have a bandsaw, and so I use that for different woods, hardwood and softwoods, and I can change up the speed a little bit on that as well. But the Portaband is really slow and it's designed for metal. So that's why I use it for metal. But yes, you can use it for wood. I mean, it's still just a saw blade spinning around. So it's going to cut a little slower. Teaching myself bone and antler carving is it's touch to engrave. Yes, Brian Stagg, it definitely tough. There's some really cool people. If you do some hashtags on Instagram, you can check out like different types of engraving in bone. What's that called? Scrimshaw is engraving in bone. Check it out. There's all sorts of cool things. I've used PB Blaster a few times, but I don't normally keep it around. I have WD-40 because that's what I've always used. All right. So let me spray a little bit of this up top. So the shaft in here has 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a 6-sided shaft, and it's basically like 6 keyways that fit into a geared shaft inside. So this can slide up and down, and then it spins on the geared shaft inside of these gears. So then that should spin freely. This is pretty clean, so I don't think it's spinning pretty smoothly there. So it's not the spinning that we can do. All right, let's see. Do you use Portman? Thank you for your videos. DG, appreciate it. Trying to have these people last out. All right. So let me do a little bit more of this. All the way down. Fill this guy up with WD-40. Let that sink in a little bit. So that should slide up and down pretty easily.
Yep. We have a black screen here. Oh,
all right.
It's blurry now.
All right. Sorry, guys. All right. How are we doing now? Okay. Are we back? I'm back. All right. Sorry about that. It was like, I thought it was just my, I thought it was just my computer, but it looks like it was everybody. Sorry about that. Am I blurry on everyone else's screen? Or is it just me? The nice thing about being live is that I can actually talk to you guys and we can figure this stuff out together.
So blurry. Why so blurry?
Okay, that's just us, which is fine. Johnny G says it's good. All right. Thanks, Johnny. Appreciate it. All right, so that's resting on that, which is okay. Let me pull this motor off now. There we go. Not so much weight there. So I'm just, I want to pull a few of these things apart so I can actually get to this stuff. That's loose. Spray the bottom. I want to take it apart a little bit so I can actually, you know, clean up the rust. So the rust on the inside of this, I'm going to stand this back up for a second. I'm going to try to pull this base off. Then I can pull the, oh, it's behind here, but it's okay. I'm going to pull the base off so I can clean up this shaft here and get all the rust off of that. Then I can do the surface as well of the actual tool rest. Refund, yeah. You start giving me some super chats, Alan, then I will refund your super chat. All right. Let's see. Let me grab a hammer. I'm going to use mallet just to get this moving a little bit.
Loud.
Go. That's moving a little bit. That's good. Let's move this back again. That's there. That. Okay.
Thank you for the licks. Thank you for all the licks.
Down.
All the licks you always give me.
So I'm just trying to get the base of this moving a little bit. So I can remove the base and then clean it up a little bit without it actually attached to the drill press. And then I'll do the same thing with the top. I can remove that. Actually, I might be able to do that now. Let's see. E says hi. Hello, E. How's it going, bud? Turn right. Is that right? Left. Left. That was pretty tight. There we go. All right. Now I can remove that. Whoop. Come here, you. Almost. Ooh. You guys get to see me doing these things by myself, which is what most of us craftsmen have to do.
I'm here.
All right, Let's see if I can get that the rest of the way.
Almost like thunder. Almost.
Thunder. All right, let's clean this up. Put a little bit of WD-40 in here just to get it moving. It wants to come around the top. But that is good. All right, that's there. What kind of press is that? Kind of press, what do you mean? What was the press? Oh, drill press. This is a, sorry, this is a, not a Craftsman, it's a, let me go get Sadie. It's a Springfield Toolcraft Power Tools from Springfield, Massachusetts. Toolcraft Power Tools. This is really great. This is a whole like cast steel head. The entire head is cast, which is just beautiful. And I love it. It's like this, has this great green paint on it. It's just this beautiful vintage, vintage handle, vintage drill press. Right now I'm just trying to get the entire head off, which I'm close. There we go. All right, so let's move that down. Make sure we're not breaking anything because that thing's pretty heavy. Move the motor down. Whoop. Let's do this. There we go. All right. So now we have the head of the press off, drill press, and the motor, which attaches to the back. I could have left that together, but it's okay. So now that's all off. So now I can actually get to the full shaft, which I want to clean up, and that way this can move up and down nice and easily, and the actual the tooling table can move up and down. But yeah, so now that I have this off, I'll just take the actual table off. See if we can slide that up. Add a little bit of WD-40 around this. So really I'm just using this to like get everything moving, to get everything lubricated. What we got? Captain Cola, it's old school. Bureau equipment, beautiful. Thank you.
Where are you going?
Yeah, so again, the brand is Toolcraft. There we go. Sliding. All right, there's the table. Ooh, that's nice. So this is really nice. I'm gonna show you guys real quick. There's a, looks like an aluminum tag. 700 Plainfield Straight, Springfield, Mass. Serial number, model number is 350B, and serial number is 9946. Which is cool. I haven't seen that before, but this actually has. You guys can see that has the tag there, the logo, which is pretty cool. So that's nice. I like that. That's another one of those things that's kind of a vintage thing. You don't see that often. So that's all in pretty good condition. Again, this thing is in really good condition. It has all of the like paint and everything is really nice. I might actually leave this base on. Take this back up a little bit. So I was loosening the base, but I don't think I need to remove that right now. So I'm just gonna grab a piece of sandpaper, just some 220, and get that moving. Let's turn this up on its side. The wiring's good. Has a little switch on it, little toggle switch. Grab my. All right. Let's grab a piece of. Actually, this work. Grab a piece of 150 to start with, just to get some stuff moving. That'll work. And And I'm just going to use this just to kind of, again, just to get that initial rust off the shaft here, and then the actual work rest, the table, the tool table for the drill press. And this is something that I do pretty often, guys, in my shop, just like all of my tools, when I get them, I mean, everything that I have in the shop is used. I really don't think I have one brand new tool except for my grinder, and that's the Revolution 2x72 Revolution grinder from Brian House, which he made for me, which is just awesome, from Housework. So, but otherwise, everything else in here is used. I mean, used tools are great. They give you the ability to get something that has a ton of quality, and well, that's not 100% true, because I have bought some things, some tools from Harbor Freight and some other tools from Home Depot and things, but nothing like large. All of my like bigger tools are all used tools, all my big machines. So again, just using 160 grit sandpaper to get some of this rust off the surface with some WD-40. Feels pretty good. It's pretty smooth. So even though there's a little bit of surface rust, it's not very thick. I can barely feel it. Manufacture date. It does not have a manufacture date on it. It just has a serial number and just the company. So it's Toolcraft, Tolkraft. The model number is 350B, and the serial number is 9946. So somebody out there, if you guys are watching and you want to use Google real quick, maybe Google Toolcraft drill press 350B, serial number is 9946. I'd be able to find the actual date of it and let me know in the comments. G Jones, today from Australia. Love the videos. Thank you so much, G Jones. Thanks for checking in. So we're just working on restoring, taking apart this drill press a little bit, getting some cleaned up, getting some stuff ready to go back together and be used, because I'm going to be making another drill press table that's movable, and then setting this up so I can have 2 drill presses in the shop. I've had this for maybe 8 months or so, and I've used it a couple times, but again, the arm on it was all gummed up, so it didn't have any of the spring back on the spring, and it couldn't use it very well. So I want to get it cleaned up so I can get it back in good working order and use it in the shop. Looks like 1972. That's some good Google foo. Thank you, Devin. All right, so let's clean that off a little bit.
Dirty. Oh, that was a very big change. You just wiped it off and it was clean.
Yep, imagine that. All right. So just using that to really get the rust off, to get started removing some of that rust off the surface. Actually, the more I use this, the softer it gets. So it's actually working really well. Just getting that surface rust off. It's okay if there's some patina on there, but the surface rust is really what slows down the movement of moving this up and down. Alan Brown, 1972, same year as born. It was a very good year. Has anybody seen, or let's see, who's out there? Sierra Brewer. Sierra Brewer, you out there? If you're not, if you're on here watching, let me know. He asked specifically, he wanted to see what I did for my 1x30, how I changed the tool rest so it could actually lean forward toward the belt. And so I will show that at the very end before I stop this. But if he was here, I was going to show him while he was here, but I haven't seen him stop in yet. And again, if you guys have any questions, you can always drop me a line or send something in Instagram. Sierra Brewer, East Sierra, I would assume that is. He commented on my Instagram post that I did earlier today, letting you guys know that I'd be doing a live stream, and he just asked that question. He asked if I could cover how I did that. So I did want to show him how I did that. All right. So now, let's grab another one. I'm going to clean up the base a little bit. If you guys can see what I'm doing, let's move some of the stuff out of the way. So now I'm just using a little bit of, again, WD-40 to clean this up. So I'm just going to put a little bit on here on the surface, a little bit on my paper towel, clean everything up. There's some old paint and stuff on here, which I'm not worried about. The great thing about this is that it is really nice. The paint, the actual green paint that's been, I would assume, baked on to this metal or powder coated or something, is in really good condition. All right. Sorry guys, I'm not sure why we keep losing signal, but
Still doing it.
we're back.
We are?
Oh yeah, we're cycling. Okay. So we should be back again.
Soon. Sometime in the future. Hopefully. Maybe.
Back, yep, we're back.
Oh, cool.
So fortunately we have it playing on our end so we can see it as well. But that may be the problem. So what I might do is actually turn off or just stop the video. It's on pause right now, so that's fine. So sorry guys, looks like we lost a bunch of our viewers, but you know, for those of you who have stuck around to watch, I appreciate it.
It's 5:40.
We'll see, we only have 7 people now, so. What I might do is actually, I'll continue work on this on my own, but I think I'm going to show you guys, at least for the video, and so that way when I upload it onto YouTube channel, it'll be at the end. But I do want to talk about the work rest. All right, so let me clean this off. I'll grab the 1x30.
This is going to take about an hour.
What?
87 minutes. We're done.
Yeah, hour and a half. All right. So I'm gonna put this aside for now. I'll keep working on this on my own, but let's see. Let me let my hands off a little bit. All right. So I want to show you guys real quick before we finish up the stream. I'll show you one more thing. I appreciate the 10 of you that are still here, and I'm sorry for the technical difficulties and the Wi-Fi difficulties. I don't have Wi-Fi here in my house, unfortunately. I just can't get it. I tried to get Comcast, and they wouldn't come out. They wouldn't bring me internet here. Our neighbors have it, but they can't get it unless we want to run a line from the street, and we're about 400 yards from the road, which would be a lot of money, and I don't have the money to be able to do that. So I'm looking at some other options, but for now, let's see. We're still recording, so okay, we're still recording. So I want to show you real quick what I did for my tool rest on the 1x30. So this is the 1x30 grinder. This is what I used for, I guess it's sawdust, for quite a while. What happened?
Ooh, I like this.
All right, so let's see.
I couldn't find my iPod.
Okay. So I'm going to show you guys this. It looks like there may be some internet issues, but I'm going to try, see what we can do. But for now, I just want to show you what I did for my tool rest. Let me check something real quick. Yeah, it looks like we're still good. Okay.
Windows are unable to connect.
All right. So for those of you who are still watching and those of you watching in the future, like I said, I use this 1x30 belt sander for a bunch of knives. I used it for a couple years, and this was a step up from my 4x36, which was the other one I'd used. So 4x36 I used for a while, and then I switched over to the 1x30, And really the nice thing, the difference between these two was that this had a platen. This has a platen behind the 1-inch belt. So there's a metal platen behind the belt that the belt goes right up to the edge. So when I was doing my plunge lines and grinds, I could actually grind on this. Now I wanted to be able to tilt this work rest back, because what I was doing for my knives, which I still do, is that I just clamp my knives onto a piece of angle iron, it's a piece of aluminum, and then by tilting this back, I can adjust the angle that I'm grinding. So if it's at a 90, I can grind a 90. I can loosen this, tilt it back toward it, and adjust it, and then I can go up to whatever angle I want. And then if I have my blade clamped on here and I adjust this back, I can put that bevel on. It works really nice and has worked perfectly, and I was able to control my bevels a lot better.
Trying to connect. Oh gosh.
But so let's do that. So I wanted to change this to be able to tilt backwards, because when I first got it, it wasn't able to tilt backwards. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to show you guys what I did to tilt this tool backwards. Unscrew this. So you can take this off, you can unscrew it and remove it. And originally when I first bought this, this front edge, which is about a ½ an inch or so, was the same all the way around. So there was this edge that went all the way around. So what I did is, for one, on the left side of the tool rest, I cut and ground back on it. So I sanded it back at an angle. So in the back, it's only about, a ¼ of an inch, if that, a little bit less, maybe 3/16. And then on the right side, I had to cut out a space, because on the right side I have the motor here. So you have the tool rest, and as it leans back, there's the motor. So the motor sits pretty even with the tool rest. And I wasn't able to bend it back, even with a tilted angle here. So even with this, if I did the same angle on the other side, it would still be hitting the motor. So I just cut out the back corner here to be able to fit around the motor. Like that. Corinne, can you log back into the computer? So this is here. That way now, as you can see, I cut out that corner, so now it leans back there. And on the other side, I just narrowed it so the entire back of the actual tool rest was narrow. So there's still a set screw back here, which, I can adjust up and down to set my depth if I need to. Google Chrome and go on YouTube. So now it sits back. So on the back side, it's narrower, so I can lean back. And I also cut out a notch on the side so I can lean back there too. So it's a pretty easy modification. If you have a 1x30 like this, it's a fairly easy modification. I still use this all the time, especially for my little stropping belt. I have a belt that I turned, was all worn, so I turned it inside out, and I use the paper backing as a strop. It runs on a, what's this, a 1/3 horsepower motor, or 1/4? A 1/3 horsepower motor, so it's not a very strong motor, but it's plenty fast for stropping, because you're not putting a lot of pressure. You're not bogging it down at all. Stropping is just to clean up that edge, and works super, super well. I sharpen all my knives with this. And you can also, you can get a couple different belts. So you can sharpen your knives. You can get a 220. You can get some Norton belts, and you can get some higher belts from all sorts of different sources. But really, having a few belts for this to be able to do sharpening is really nice, to be able to do bevel down sharpening. And it works great for works great also just for knife making. I mean, like I said, I use this for years for knife making, and it works great. So I just wanted to finish that up real quick and just tell you guys a little bit about that. Like I said, I had a request from East Sierra Brewer. He asked about if I could talk a little bit about that modification. So I did want to finish up the live stream with that. I'm just gonna put this together real quick. Put this back together real quick.
Internet's not working.
It's okay.
We're all gonna die.
So again, I just want to say, I really appreciate you guys all watching. Appreciate you watching the videos and hanging out with me today. I don't know how many of those are still out here. I could check real quick just to see how many we got. We got about 20 people watching, maybe 19. So thank you guys so much for watching. It's been fun. Always fun to do some live streams. I'm down in the shop all the time. Like I said, I'm probably going to be taking apart the forge and putting in the furnace cement and getting it all back together. So I might do that in another live stream. Let me know if you guys want to see that. It's just fun to hang out in the shop sometimes and chat, drink a beer, and talk about some stuff and answer your questions. So thank you all for watching. It's been a fun hour and a half or so. ECR Brewer, thank you again for asking on Instagram. And I will let you know, I'll send you a message to let you know that this is up here. So it's been a fun day, and we'll see you guys on the next live stream, hopefully. Thanks.